Welcome to Train Future, where ambition meets expertise. At Train Future, we believe in the transformative power of mentorship and training. In this podcast series, I interview leaders and experts from various fields. Welcome, John. Thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
So, John, COVID changed the way we work. What lessons have companies learned about the employee selection over the past 5 years? And in what way has the employee selection process changed over the years?
That's a great question. COVID, well, you mentioned COVID changed so much. It changed the way that we work and the ways that we engage with our office and the people in our office. And as it relates to selection, employee selection, hiring people, there was a period in time for many organizations where they were remote during COVID. They had high volume of work that they were doing, and so there was a rush to hire people, and the opportunity to be able to hire people from multiple geographic locations to bring them into your office rather than everybody sitting in one office was really enticing and interesting. And one thing that we saw is that a lot of those hires during COVID ultimately turned out to not be long-term hires, that people began to kind of move around and shift. And so there was a kind of a long-term culture of sorts that was diminishing in a lot of organizations. So how it's changed the way that folks hire now or select employee selection, I think we're a lot more thoughtful about the way we go about it currently. And I think that businesses are looking for both folks with really great technical expertise, but also being as mindful as they can about what's the fit in the organization, what's the personalities and skills that people have that they're able to contribute to the companies.
That's right. And we saw the great resignation, work from home, hybrid working, and fall in rent. I mean, not sure where this is heading towards, but what are some qualities, on a separate topic, what are some qualities that we could learn from the best leaders in the world?
Yeah, that's another great question. So the foundation of the work that we do at Bell Leadership is studying basically that exact question. And so studying, researching, working with what we would say to be highly effective leaders, and then also studying patterns of highly ineffective leaders or folks who can build some skills on leadership. And so you think about what are the best leaders in the world, and there are certainly examples of people who have made lots of money and gained power and influence. And then fundamentally to think about, well, what really works for it just in the world in general, the types of leadership skills that people have. And so think a lot about what are those skill sets. Really effective leaders, they're oftentimes really positive and optimistic. They have kind of a go-getting attitude. They're really honest. They treat people valuably. They're highly productive. They're cool under pressure. They build great relationships, and they oftentimes lead really innovative organizations. And so there are all these kind of skill sets that leaders have. And actually, one thing that we know is that as young folks are entering the workforce, as you guys are graduating school and becoming part of the kind of economy, so to say, building skills as leaders is just as important as building the technical skills that you study at school. And so what we can learn from really great leaders, one of the things that we can definitely know is that really effective leaders tend to be on a path of constant improvement and development. They fully understand that kind of increasing to hone their skills and build the skills that they want to be effective is one of the most important things to do. So all of those character attributions of really successful leaders, really highly effective leaders, also knowing that kind of what we have now isn't necessarily all we want to have. So then continuing to build those skills over time.
Speaking of those skills, what innovative or unique strategies does Bell Leadership use for developing leadership skills today?
Well, Bell Leadership, it's interesting. We are kind of by design, a very traditional approach to leadership skills. And I say traditional, not in like old school way. Um, but what we believe in when you build leadership skills, that it requires work. There are no shortcuts, and that working with people in person very thoughtfully is how we build leadership skills. So we focus as an organization on interpersonal communication, interpersonal actions, how you and I interrelate in an office place. And so you think about the idea of innovation. There are a whole lot of really interesting technologies and tools out there, micro learning, reinforcement technologies, all things that we definitely use. And when it comes to people, we haven't changed all that much over the past couple hundred years as human beings. And so, even though we have new technologies and things that are really interesting and we use on a daily basis, how you and I communicate and relate hasn't really changed. And so, from a very fundamental level, we believe at Bell Leadership that the future leaders of the world, you all, the more you build your ability to relate to people one on one, like everyone, myself included, every person around, the more I build that ability to build relationships with people will contribute to my overall success as I move forward. And so when we think about innovation, it's super important to be innovative in organizations. And when we're talking people, sometimes the simplest approaches are oftentimes best.
Hmm. Can you share some of the like success stories where your training has transformed leaders and boosted organizational growth and culture?
Yeah. So from our world, Bell Leadership, we work with all kinds of different organizations. We don't specialize in say like one industry in the sense that we believe that kind of leadership is ubiquitous across all organizations, whether it's a say a nonprofit or a for-profit business. Um, so without using kind of names of clients, et cetera, we've been working with folks for 50 plus years, and the idea I think founded on this idea that people, you and I, can change. We can change our patterns of behavior and approaches as leaders. And so, with that fundamental belief, we worked with so many different groups. So, yeah, I think about an organization recently that had a very kind of command and control structure that was historically the way that they approached almost everything that they did. And through the work with us and other work that they've done, have transformed the entire organization in order to have a bit more, I'll say, collaborative structure in the way that they work with each other. And of course, you mentioned success stories. The best leadership initiatives always begin at the top. When we want to work with organizations that are excited about training and excited about learning about how to build their skills as leaders, organizations from the kind of the C level, organizations take on, I'll say, the personality of their executives. And so when we are able to work with the executives in an organization, like that command and control example that I mentioned just earlier, when I say starts at the top, when we start working with the folks who are in positions of leadership, who have a high degree of influence, who can have the ability to influence others, when they begin changing the way that they approach work, when they begin to change the way that they approach leadership, then it has a trickle down effect throughout the whole organization, and people begin to follow their leader, so to speak. And so then they see how the leaders are behaving. They begin to emulate those. And so when we talk about success stories, there are so many from Bell Leadership, and so many ways that we can see people individually making choices and committing themselves to doing something different to be more effective as leaders. So, shifting in an organization like that command and control organization to something that's more collaborative in nature, that follows more of our leadership model, takes time. It's not an immediate transformation. It takes time and effort and work. And of course, kind of thinking about the leaders of that organization, man, are they committed? And they really, really work hard at it. And it's been a long transition, but one that's very beneficial. So then in the end point of that organization's growth, their retention is higher. They've had to build the ability to keep people, but now it becomes kind of one of those like best places to work and where they are now, and all of the work that they've done to build their, people use the word culture, but build their leadership style has borne out in the way that they're now growing. They're continuing to grow organically, and also their retentions are much higher than they used to be.
Perfect. I mean, my last question to you today is,
Yeah.
what are the most important factors for employees nowadays? Like compensation, work-life balance, type of company, whether it's like a startup or established, and leadership style of the boss.
Yeah. I, I'd almost flip that around as you're kind of now thinking about it as a kind of a person going through school and now thinking about what mentorship and leadership looks like in the workplace. I think one of the most important things for you to do is to make sure or to decide what those things are that are most important for you. To say, well, what kind of leader do I want to work with? One thing we know is that people who have really great first leaders, or are able to go into a highly effective organization, their career trajectories tend to I guess rapidly increase or move very quickly. And so seeking out leadership in your first job, first set of work, is really important. And so you think about all the other factors you mentioned: compensation, work-life balance, type of company, etc. I think from our perspective, finding someone who's a really effective leader that you can learn from, that can mentor you, that can focus on your career and help stretch you and build you as a human being is so important. And so I think all employees in organizations have a different kind of set of balances and what they look for, whether it's compensation or time off or work-life balance or work from home, individual to everybody. And because we know that leadership is such an impactful part of the workplace, that finding great places with really effective leaders is paramount.
Oh, thank you so much, John, for your
Yeah.
valuable inputs. It was a pleasure having you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.